Here we go. Good evening, everyone. Because we love you. And, well, some of you guys we don't like. Jim, you know what you did. And Dale.
Well,
Dale,
apparently Jim now.
did. You know what you did. But aside from that, we love you guys. So, really quick before I go any further, Romney, will Sunday still work?
Yeah.
So, like Sunday, same time?
Yeah.
Okay, now here's the $1 million question. Do we want it live?
That is a good question.
People are already
okay with
confused.
either.
People are already confused in the chat. You don't get to know until the end. Because I'm mean.
I would actually propose we pitch it now just because, well, we do tend to drop off viewers at the end of the show.
Mm.
It's a good point.
That's why I'm giving them motivation to stay on.
Trust me, that doesn't work. Not in this day and age. This isn't the era of news at 11 anymore, Adam.
Huh?
This isn't the era of news at 11 anymore, where people will willingly wait for the news at 11.
Okay, I guess my rebuttal to that would be they actually did wait for the news at 11.
Sure, back in the olden days when that's all you could do because it was that or read the newspaper the next morning.
I wouldn't know. I grew up in cable. So.
Exactly. So we're past those.
We could go to the cable news networks to get it.
Yeah, I was one of those in those house. I'm still technically in that household, which was the news at 11, technically news at 10. Point being, I was in the group of people that didn't have cable.
All right, chat, you can leave it in the comments below. We are considering doing a bonus episode on the Netflix Castlevania. Would you like it live? And nothing. That's all you get. Until I wrap things up tonight.
Okay.
There you go. You guys' opinions on it.
Well, I'm okay either way. I'm just thinking, would people actually want to tune into a live one? That's the real question.
People do like it when we do cover movies and whatnot, but this would be the first time we've done a series, and I think the only lure for that would be Romney has a review on it. I have a vlog that came out today. So at that point, this is basically going to allow us all to get together and kind of give our thoughts on it. And I have a feeling that after you watch it, Alex, we might get at least a vlog or something from you on your channel on it.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. So let us know in the chat if you want a live bonus episode of Castlevania or Netflix's Castlevania. This would be the first time we've ever done it with a TV series. I'm not gonna lie. This would be the first time we've done it. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you guys want it live, you guys gotta let us know.
It'll probably be one of the few times because Castlevania actually had the sense to keep itself short rather than be like, oh, here's 13-hour-long episodes.
Yeah, but it sounds to me like you and me also have a complaint in that regard. Because they didn't cover enough.
Well, that I didn't really complain about that. My complaint was more about the animation and what I like to call the Shankarisms.
See, and my complaint was that the sound mixer ought to be fired.
Yeah, I did mention that one too. Especially when you have the main character mumbling through most of his lines.
Well, he wasn't the only one, and I would actually say he wasn't the worst. Because here's the thing, like, I love Richard Armitage, and I think he actually did a good performance. I just don't think the director in the booth was telling him to how to properly do this. But that Archbishop, he's the worst culprit of that entire 4-episode run. He is the worst freaking culprit.
Yeah.
So he's horrible. Horrible.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The sound mixer ought to be fired.
Yeah, it basically looked with the sound mix, it looked like that they had mastered it for like some sort of surround sound setup, but then forgot to do the part of the mastering of, oh, let's listen to it on smaller speakers. Because that's like a big thing you do with television in general, is that you do the big sound mix and then you listen to it on smalls or smaller speakers. And they skip
to me, it doesn't even sound like they listen to it on any speakers. Like, because I tried that... because I tried the Archbishop like on a couple of his rants on 4 different mediums. So I dug out 2 different sets of headphones. I put them on my PC speakers. I put them on my regular TV. And I even put them on in my damn car. I still couldn't hear him on any of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I have to turn the volume up to hear what he's saying, or if I have to rely on the subtitles to see what he's saying, you've lost.
Mm-hmm.
And at least with Richard Armitage, there were lines you could hear. There were and they did have power to them, even though Richard approached this very soft spoken. And again, I'm not going to blame that on Richard. I think Richard gave a good performance. I'm going to blame that more on the director in the booth, because at that point, it's like, I know you want to give soft-spoken, but soft-spoken needs to, enunciate and be a little louder, because this is going to be going out and it has to be able to reach people. And the way that you're literally making this guy is that he's kind of mumbling.
Yep.
So... anyway, I don't want to spoil too much for people who are just barely joining us, but yeah, let us know in the chat if you want a live bonus episode of Geek News Reviews and Opinion covering the Netflix Castlevania. And here's a bonus. So you already know that Romney has reviewed it, and my vlog just barely came out today. We're bringing the Shadow Blazer in, so he's going to watch it. So do you want to see his thoughts live, or do you want to see them taped?
You make it sound so creepy.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me try that again.
Yeah.
You could hear him taped. There you go.
Anyone else think Drag is planning to make a snuff film out of this?
Honestly, I've seen people use even less pretense to make a snuff film, so...
I was going to say, is there a nostalgia critic joke in there somewhere? Because sometimes when he gets to the steamier scenes in a movie, he does go the extra distance. Go, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're a little bit over time, so I'm going to start my recorder.
Yep, go ahead. And
right.
Alex, are you ready?
Ready.
Sound speed.
Okay, I'm just to clarify this to people so we don't have the same issue as last week. We're going to say Mauer, not Alex Mauer, so we don't get the comments saying I didn't know who you were talking about. All right.
You.
3, 2, 1. So cameras are hot, mics are hot. Here we go, everybody. Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk about the week's events in Geek for Friday night, July. I was about to say January. I don't know what I was actually saying. For July 14th, 2017, I am your host, Adam Mickelson. I hope everybody has had an awesome week so far. For me, it's just been pretty relaxed. I've been catching up on a lot of stuff, but also had a very kind of mellow week with my family. So that was pretty freaking awesome. But of course, I'm not alone in this as we discuss the events of the week. I'm being joined by my group of fellow YouTubers, fellow friends, fellow awesome people in general. And let's go ahead and start things off with the Shadow Blazer himself, who as of tomorrow will be celebrating 400 subscribers. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. The week's been very busy for me with work and squeezing out a quick few first impression videos on some of the summer anime that I've checked out. Most are in the trash bin already, sad to say, but there's at least one that's absolutely, I think, worth watching for me.
Sure.
And yes, you did actually went ahead and said it already, so I'm going to go ahead and also plug it while I'm here, and that is tomorrow I am going to finally live stream a celebration video live celebrating the 400 subscribers that I gained just over the past month. So please join me and we'll have some fun. We'll talk, we'll chat, we'll answer questions, and be there or be square.
I have a question. Will it be live or will it be to tape?
It will be live.
Okay, I was just trying to get you to say live one more time. And then we're also being joined by Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost Utah of Romney's Reviews from the Shelf. Romney, how you doing?
I'm doing fairly well. It's been an okay week for the most part. It's had a few ups and downs, especially since this has been the week where I've been starting to try to get back into exercising on a regular basis, in addition to a few other drastic dietary changes for the sake of my health. So it's been a bit of a battle.
You have my sympathy, sir. You have it indeed. That's never a fun process to be able to go through. I have no problem saying that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's tough, and I do normally like exercise, but it's very much one of those cases where I've been out of it so long, and my body is not too keen to let me forget that.
Oh yeah. Like, I've tried to start up working out who knows how many times in the last few months, because here's the thing. I had to accept this, but when you have a kid, you're not even the one having the kid. The dad will get weight gain. That's just the bottom line. Like, I know a lot of mothers worry about that, but dad's it like sneaks in like Solid Snake and just hits you when you don't realize that, oh crap, I am 10 pounds heavier, and it's expected. And so at that point, when I start working out, then I'm reminded of how many knee surgeries I've had in my life. And then I realized the next day that I literally can't walk. Mm-hmm. Not without my knee sounding like the rusty hinges that they are. Just it's horrible.
Yeah, for me, it's basically been my body, especially like in the wake of the workout, being just like, what did you do?
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. What did you do to me?
Yep. I mean, the thing is, like, I'm able to still run fairly well, but it's the weights, man. It's the weights that my body didn't like.
Oh, yeah. And Alex is just kind of sitting here going, I'm stupidly thin. I don't have to worry about this.
No,
I say, congratulations, but damn you, sir.
That end, well, I am in a retail position where it demands a bit of physicality out of me, so that at least keeps me in a tiny bit of shape. But well, I'm not more healthy, really.
I also kind of wonder if you have the same thing that my wife does, which is her metabolism. Basically, there's a giant black hole in her stomach, so she never she'll eat a feast and then she won't gain a pound off of it. So I have a feeling that you have the same thing. All right. Well, there we go. Here are the introductions. Let's go ahead and get into the events of this week. Now, the first thing that we're going to be talking about, and I literally debated with myself over the entire week of whether or not to bring it up. Because last week we covered the Alex Mauer situation. And it wasn't fun. And, and unfortunately, we thought it was over, but it kicked back on probably about, so I want to say it ended about a half hour before the podcast ended, about a half hour before the podcast started. And about 2 hours after the podcast had wrapped, we started getting news. So at that point, we're going to cover it, but we do have an announcement in that regard at the end. So, yes, Alex Mauer redacted all of her copyright or her DMCA takedowns on the various channels for Star Mazer DSP. And unfortunately, the reason that she did it, we found out later, was because we also found out why when she was flagging like 5 videos at a time when some people were only getting 1 strike out of it. It's because you filed them in bulk. And so she decided, oh, well, I'm going to be just a nasty little mother effer, and I'm going to file this one, and then I'm going to file another one individually so that I can hurt the channels. So she did that. But the difference here is that it was officially confirmed Leonard French and Don Thackett, the head of Imago Softworks, were going to go to trial. And they were going to not only resolve the issues that Alex Mauer has, but also take care or put a temporary restraining order on her so that she can't put any more DMCA takedowns on Imagos works, kind of thing. And thankfully, also, they were able to get Star Mazer DSP back up on Steam. That was another update that happened over the weekend. And just to kind of sum up things as best as I can, because there's a lot there, she then began to attack other projects that she had worked on. We'd already talked about it a little bit in the previous week, because she started attacking Contravis's River City Ransom Underground. And so that's happening. And I know there's at least one other game in there, but I'm not remembering the title off the top of my head. If you guys want to look it up really quick, that'd be awesome. But there was one other title, and so she resumed her DMCA war on YouTube, even though she made the statements on Twitter like, no, I don't even care. Thankfully, but then we got the interesting news that Alex had actually lawyered up. Alex Mauer had lawyered up. And we just barely got the news from their first meeting in court. So here's the way that it's going to go. And if you guys want additional details, you can go to the most recent Sid Alpha video that covers a lot of that documentation. The temporary restraining order for, at least right now, I think they're going to do another date talking about it, but it is granted. So here's the way it goes. She is no longer allowed to put up any more DMCA takedowns regarding Imago Softworks titles. So for all the people who are still suffering from River City Ransom Underground, unfortunately, this doesn't cover you. This only covers Star Mazer DSP. So, and it literally says in the documentation, she cannot put any more DMCA takedown notices on anything regarding Star Mazer. Second, she has to basically go out of her way to be able to get the DMCA takedowns removed for those that she actually has hurt. To my knowledge, she hasn't really done this. She's been very sluggish on that, but that also might be YouTube. She also needed to pay a $100 bond, and they needed to meet again for another court date. And like I said, she had lawyered up. She got a copyright attorney, and then hours after the court date appeared to fire him. So she's independently representing herself again. It was interesting. She fired the guy. And I'm not quite sure if it was because of the court date or because the guy had the audacity to say, look, I know you may not want to talk to me and you may not like the court date, but would you like me to talk to you, or would you like me to talk to your dad about this? And since she swore off her entire family, I'm pretty sure that there are two nerves he could have actually hit. One, the bad court date, or the fact that he brought family into it. I don't know which. One of them resulted in her firing him. And also, when he responded back, she immediately threatened harassment. So yeah, she's independently represented again, and she's still going to be going after the people who are doing River City Ransom Underground videos. In fact, River City Ransom Underground is off of Steam right now. I have a feeling they're working hard to get all of Alex Mauer's sound effects and music out of the game so they can get it back up there. And again, the third game, I'm not sure which one that is, but for those who have Star Mazer DSP DMCA takedowns, make sure to reach out to Leonard French and let them know that you still have them. If you have River City Ransom Underground, unfortunately, you're kind of on your own. This lawsuit is not going to cover that stuff. It's not for Contravis, it's for Imagos. And that's pretty much bringing up everybody to speed. So I guess let's go ahead and go into our opinions on the most recent attacks of Alex Mauer, as well as the court date. Let's go ahead and start things off with Romney, which is our resident legal expert, which somebody actually did reach out to me and said, every time you have to be lawyer on this thing, I should find the opening song to LA Law, and just while you speak, I have to play it.
Yeah, looking at this, let's first explain one key important thing. With the temporary restraining order and the injunctions that are in place, this is specifically during the duration of the lawsuit. This isn't like, oh, it's done forever. This is while this case is being deliberated, as Leonard French is pursuing not just these injunctions, but is also specifically declaratory judgment asserting that Imago Softworks owns the rights to all the content in these Star Measure games, music and all, and reasserting that it was a work for hire contract, in addition to also pursuing the yet to be disclosed amount of money for damages as a result of these fraudulent DMCA takedowns.
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing here. And honestly, more of a reaction to what was going on, but given that it's clear that Mauer is deranged and is clearly unhinged, it's very much one of those cases where nothing seems to faze me about what she's doing anymore. I mean, it's sad to say, but it's very much true, where it's like you're watching a monkey in the cage and you're just like, yeah, it's just more of the same rattling around. So I'm just not as fazed by it. I did find the letter that was issued by the lawyer that she had retained. The attorney's name is Frank Mazzeo of writer Lou Mazzeo, and I don't even know how to pronounce that last name of that firm's name.
Musician Antihero had problems with him too.
Yeah, I think it's pronounced like
Konechny in it.
Yeah, I think it's pronounced Konechny, but that's just my
something
guess.
like that.
Yeah,
I looked at it, I couldn't even tell.
Like, I only know how to pronounce it somewhat because I looked at how Polish names are pronounced. So it's Frank Mazzeo of writer Lou Mazzeo and Konechny LLC. And they were asking, and there's a link. I'm actually looking at a Reddit that summarizes this whole thing, and there's an actual. There was a submitted request to delay the restraining order. I'll read the text here. It says the text is addressed to Judge Schiller, the judge presiding over the case. It says, I was just retained late this evening to represent defendants Alex T. Mauer in the TRO hearing scheduled for 11 a.m. tomorrow, Thursday morning, July 13th, which was yesterday. I'm writing to request a short 1-week countenance of the hearing so I could have adequate time to prepare for the hearing, gather evidence, and properly present my client's side of this matter. Also, I'd like to have the time so I can explore a possible amicable resolution for the matter. I spoke with Mr. French, attorney for the plaintiffs, this evening, but he refused to consent to my continuance request. My client agrees not to file any further copyright takedown notices until the hearing takes place. She will also not take any further affirmative action on any already filed takedown notices. Also, just to address the plaintiff's allegations to which we disagree, my client will not make any threats or take any physical action against the plaintiffs or their attorney. Therefore, plaintiffs will not be prejudiced by this proposed short delay. Thank you for the court's kind consideration of this request. And so it looks like that was a request that was submitted. And I'm seeing here, I'm literally like going through a Reddit, courtesy of reddit.com/r/Jim Sterling, that's summarizing a lot of this. And so yeah, I'm guessing it's very much a yo-yo hiring-firing situation where it's like, oh, and apparently they're fired again. It's very much one of those.
Just curious, did this make you question like who actually did hire the lawyer? Because after the firing and bringing up the dad, I actually kind of wondered, was this a lawyer that Alex Mauer hired, or was it somebody that her family may have hired against her will?
Yeah, it's hard to say, especially given just how weird a lot of this is. It's very much one of those cases where it's just there's no way to know. There is no way to know. And that's on top of, I literally just found this just now, of archived images of Alex Mauer trying to forge an attorney's letter under a different name of an attorney by the name of Corey Shackelford.
Did she really?
It's on the Reddit page. And so looking at this, it's just, yeah, it's hard to really
need to see this. What is it? r/Jim Sterling?
Yeah, r/Jim Sterling, and it's a specific Alex Mauer thread that has compiled all this information.
Okay, I actually need to see this now because she actually did that. Isn't that going to cause problems for her later on? That's kind of illegal.
Yeah, kind of. It's a little thing. It's a little thing called perjury.
Yeah, it's a little thing. It's definitely not going to help her in the long run. Oh, well, okay. Well, I'll look at this as we go along. But, yeah, this is just a complicated situation. Alex, your thoughts on the Mauer situation? I'm trying very hard not to say the first name because already we're getting the jokes in the chat.
Okay, just say Ms. Mauer or something like that, so people don't keep confusing the two of us. Anyway,
I could say miss, but that
well,
would mean that
again,
I have respect for them.
I don't think there's a lot I can really add because I'm the observer here. Beyond, of course, what I've seen through Leonard French's own YouTube page, where he's covering it through his Lawful Masses channel. And given that, again, my extent of legal knowledge is what I watch on Law and Order, so I'm just like, I don't know what this woman is gonna do anymore. She's off her cuff. She's kind of loony and batty at this point. Sorry to kind of make fun like that, but it's sort of like, what are you even doing, lady? You're not, you just keep digging yourself a deeper hole. And I'm like, when you finally get to court, it's just like, this is going to be nuts to watch what happens when this finally gets into court.
Well, technically she's been to court and she doesn't care, obviously, because she fired her attorney when she didn't get the outcome she wanted.
Yeah, and sadly, that is actually a common thing. And there was a Reddit thread that I actually found one day it was basically, it was a thread for attorneys. I don't remember which one, but somebody literally asked, what's the dumbest thing you've ever had to explain to a client? And I just saw so many stories from so many lawyers and law firms explaining how many lawyers were straight up fired, even though they had done, like, for example, a case of, okay, I was able to get a pretty good plea deal. The person fired me because she thought I could get her off scot-free. And, well, she then tried finding a different lawyer, and things didn't work out, as tends to be expected when people think they know how the legal system works, only to actually try going into court and falling flat on their face.
Yeah, well, and I have a feeling that a good portion of this is going to be Alex Mauer falling flat on her freaking face. Because I just don't, like, given the evidence that we have, and given her outbursts and everything like that, I don't see a judge ruling in her favor. I really don't, because all Leonard French has to do they're the plaintiffs, right, in the case. Yeah, Alex is the defendant. Not this Alex, people. Mauer's the defendant. They are the plaintiffs. So all that Leonard French has to do in this case is prove all of her malicious behavior, and it's all documented. It's all there. I'm pretty sure every statement that she's made since then, all the stuff that's been public, has been made evidence here. And so at that point, all Leonard French has to do is just dig out one of those, and he can prove any kind of malicious intent. And I don't see a judge in the world who would not immediately side with French on this one, or side with him, it goes. So yeah, that's the way it goes. Now, with that, now that we've gone over our opinions, here's the announcement. So a lot of the bigger YouTubers that were covering this, as well as Sid Alpha, Total Biscuit, Jim Sterling. I don't know about Jim if he's made the statement, but I know that TB and Sid Alpha have made this official statement, which is simply, and I'm going to stick with them on this because I actually do agree with their logic on the matter. As Romney kind of put, all of her outbursts are either considered to be mentally unstable, or, dare I say, if you actually do what Mauer wants you to do and not take her sanity into account, all of her actions, her tantrums, all that just look like bratty, childish behavior. And all we do, unfortunately, every time we cover this, even though we know people want to know about the case and how it's affecting YouTubers and all that, unfortunately, I agree with Sid Alpha and TB. To do that is to give Mauer more attention and to give her a platform to have these tantrums and outbursts and all of that. So frankly, as much as I have my own problems with Alex Mauer, and as much as I think she is a bully, because she is acting like a bully on the internet simply because things did not go her way, I have kind of made an executive decision on the podcast, and that is, this is going to be the last update you get on this court case until it is finished, until final results are in, or heaven forbid something horrible happens in the middle of this. Okay. And the reason I'm only doing this is because I agree with the premise. We are giving Mauer way too much attention in this regard. And frankly, this day went in your favor. It didn't go in the favor, like, to the River City Ransom Underground guys. It didn't go in your favor. But here's the way that I kind of look at it. Imagos wins. Leonard French either will represent Contreras or he will talk to the lawyer representing Contreras and give them all the precedent that he had in his case, which in turn will help them. So today was actually a good day legally because the restraining order was upheld. And regardless of whether or not Mauer likes it, she has to abide by it. Otherwise, it's a violation and she makes her case 10 times worse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've literally seen court cases where, the perfect ones that I want to bring up is like, if you look up on YouTube, any person who has mouthed off to the judge, any person who has immediately gone into a tirade because they didn't get what they wanted in court. What happens in those cases? The judge rules against them almost instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
He takes all. I've even seen judges where he was ruling in that person's favor, but still felt like there should be a penalty, got an outburst, and he immediately reversed all of his decisions and went against that person. Okay? Because the judge can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, Mauer is the only one right now who can hurt her case. And frankly, I believe she will. So
yes,
that's why I'm saying, like, usually I bring Romney, Alex, Aldo into that situation, but the argument is sound. And so at this point, I am going to say, like, executive privilege here and say, we are not going to be covering this, barring the fact we get a court result, a final result for this, or heaven forbid, Mauer attacked Leonard French, something like that. Like that I will report on.
Yeah, and I think that is pretty much the best way to go about it, because what a lot of people tend to forget is that lawsuits take a long time. I mean,
yes.
Given the amount of lawsuits we covered, like with the H3H3 lawsuits, if anything, are financial wars of attrition. And from this point on, unless it's more drastic stuff that actually poses a danger to other people, any information we get going forward is going to be very piecemeal. I mean, the most recent update is that keep in mind, this is a temporary restraining order against Alex Mauer, and they even have another hearing scheduled for next Wednesday, the 19th, in order to determine whether a more permanent restraining order should be issued. And so it probably is the best way to go about it, where there's not much else we can really cover since these deliberations are going to take quite some time. And although a lot of people are kind of the opinion, oh, grab the popcorn, let's watch the madness. Well,
I got better crap to do.
Yeah, I mean, if it's anything like watching stuff like Judge Judy or any of the other court TV shows where it gets boring after the 5th or 4th time you see someone cuss out another person in the courtroom and get smacked down by the judge, it's very much going to be more of that. So again, and to kind of add to the same point, we don't want to give Mauer more attention than she's already gained, because it's very much the whole, to kind of paraphrase P.T. Barnum, there's no such thing as bad publicity. At least I think that was P.T. Barnum. I may be wrong. If you know who actually said that quote, feel free to correct me, people in the chat or comments or what have you. But it's very much a case, there's not going to be any major revelations coming out for quite some time as this deliberation is underway, because, well, at least with most cases, they tend to be closed courtrooms unless it's a specific case that they allow the press in. But there's not going to really be any major revelations coming out over the next few weeks. So it may be best if we give this a little bit of distance while we basically let the system do its thing.
Exactly. So at that point, I think it's just better to let this thing carry the way it's going to carry. And unfortunately, to cover it is just to give Mauer even more publicity. And frankly, I don't want to give her any more.
Yep.
The tantrums are enough.
Although one thing that did make me laugh, I found another tweet. Although Alex Mauer's Twitter is gone now, apparently her own YouTube channel got taken down because of all the DMCA takedown notices triggered the Content ID algorithm in YouTube. So a bunch of her videos on her own YouTube channel have since been taken down.
Oh, good. Okay. I didn't even really. Well, yeah, she would probably have to have a YouTube channel to be able to write in the BMC takedowns. So, okay, good. So YouTube's acting in this regard.
Yeah, well, it's not even that. It's not even like, oh, they actively did it. It was literally the content ID algorithm kicked in. So it very much is the case of karma's a bit of a bitch.
It really is. Alex, your thoughts on not covering this until there's a final result? Do you object to that?
I don't totally object. I'm not.
By the way, her Twitter's back up, so
yeah. I mean, your logic and reasoning is sound. Certainly, I'm totally not opposed to the idea of covering her. And I mean, I think it's safe to say, though, her career as a potential composer is over. I don't think any game studio after this will ever
her career
approach her.
I'll go a little further and say her career in anything is over. Because the bottom line is that when we have to apply to jobs now, not only is there a background check done on everybody, but there's also that Facebook check, that Google search of you. And this crap is going to come up. And I think Sid Alpha said it best, is like, in order to be able to have her hired by anybody, even as a composer, I'm pretty sure they'd have to draw up a very long bit of paperwork for her to sign before she would even be brought on. And frankly, a lot of companies would just sit there and go, nah, I'm not even dealing with the hassle. She's done, period. I really, given how much hassle she's given over all of this stuff, I don't see McDonald's hiring her. McDonald's will literally look at this and go, and I'm not touching this with a 20-foot pole.
Yeah, maybe. So, but, as for, you're right, though, there's probably not, unless something really, really major happens, it's mostly going to be just a lot of courtroom working and procedural and just work. And if you're really that interested in keeping up with that, then I'm sure Leonard French will continue to post periodic updates of the progress on the case to the extent that he can. Obviously, he's bound by confidentiality, but...
And it makes sense for Leonard to do that because, that's what his channel is about. But I can see why people like Sid Alpha, TB, Musician Antihero are saying, nope, we're done. Because this is just giving way too much coverage to it, and eventually you get as exhausted as Sid Alpha and Musician Antihero. When I don't know if you guys have seen the most recent videos. Whenever Alex Mauer is in the title, it's like, like that big sigh. It's like, I don't want to cover this. I don't want to have this moment, and so that's what I want to not happen here. And frankly. Okay, if she wants to go under the mentally unstable argument, which she's refused, then I don't want to give that because frankly she's not of the right mind. And if she is of sane mind and body, as she makes the claim, well, she's acting rather bratty. She's acting rather childish. She's having temper tantrums on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, wherever, and I don't tolerate it. So I'll wait until the court results and then say, yeah, screw you. Because I'm pretty sure the only person that can hurt this case is Alex Mauer, and Alex has already done plenty. In fact, I got to the Jim Sterling mega thread. I don't know if you actually saw this, but she's officially written a letter to the judge saying that the lawyer is fired, and went off into a couple of stories on what happened during the court date for her, and immediately demanding that the lawyer be taken off the case. So there you go. That's what you're to expect with this whole thing. So one thing I will also say is I'm also going to go with those fellow YouTubers in this regard. If you have videos of River City Ransom Underground, or like I said, this third game, we'll get the title to you guys. If you have videos of these, I'm going to agree with them. It's probably best for you to private them so that Alex Mauer can't attack them. Okay, I know that cuts into your monetization and all that, but it's better that a video be private and you're not getting any monetization from it than you get a strike and therefore have all of the restrictions that come with that. So I'm going to go ahead and agree with that whole concept. Just private the videos. Star Mazer is no longer affected. If you still have a VMCA takedown on your account for Star Mazer, get in contact with Leonard French so that he can get that removed, or he can help you get that removed. And also, if you want to, the other one that I wanted to bring up, but I haven't had much success on, is if you want to help out, I would say reach out to Leonard French. I have done so to maybe possibly do a stream to get awareness of the GoFundMe, but, well, he hasn't responded to me, so I don't know how successful you guys will have it. But in the meantime, I think the way Leonard French would want this is cover your own butt, and then if he needs help, he'll come out and say it.
Mm-hmm. And to add to that, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you do want to support Leonard, either through the GoFundMe directly for this case or just support him in general, he does periodically, actually does it a little more frequently now. He does frequently do live streams where he'll, collect charity streams, I guess you could say. I don't know what they're called, but he'll do streams where people can tip his channel, basically, and he'll just kind of go through legal jargon and explain case, read documents. So that's always a good way to really support him if you're really interested.
Well, and for this case, he's also been doing weekly updates. So if you are concerned, if you want to know what's happening in the case, he has been consistent with this, and there are already some weekly updates for it. So you guys can follow that. But let's go ahead and wrap that up there. So that's all I'm going to do for Alex Mauer until we get a final result. Let's go and get into the next story, which a listener brought to my attention, and yay, it's more lawsuits. Yay, I'm just so happy. So a singer is going to be suing Bethesda over the use of his music in a Fallout 4 commercial, and he is literally quoted as saying it is a repugnant and morally indefensible image. So Dion DiMucci, I think I'm saying that right, is going to be suing Bethesda over a Fallout 4 commercial that contains what he calls all that, but in specific, he does not like the fact that his song "The Wanderer" was used in the commercial with the same all of the material that he finds repugnant and morally indefensible. Let's see. As of right now, I don't think any major stuff has happened. Like, they haven't gone to court or anything like that. But DiMucci's suit claims that if given the right of refusal by Bethesda, DiMucci could either have blocked the use of the song, renegotiated for a higher fee, or convinced the company to tell the story of a post-apocalyptic struggle for survival without craven violence. So yeah, he's suing, and he's asking for $1 million to pay for potential loss of income and damages to his reputation. But right now, we don't know if they've gone to court or anything of the sort. But guys, it is Bethesda, and we've seen how Bethesda lawsuits have gone in the past. I'm just saying, Dion DiMucci, I hope you do better than those who have come before you. So let's go and get into our opinions on this. Alex, your thoughts on Dion DiMucci's argument. Do you think he has a leg to stand on, or do you think he's just being a blowhard, so to speak?
Well, I guess I can understand why he probably wouldn't like the idea of a song being featured in a commercial that he finds pretty bad, but unfortunately, I don't think he has a real leg to stand on. I mean, this is based on my limited knowledge or remembrance of what I learned about how the music industry works, considering that they would have to get permission from whoever owns the song to play it. So that's kind of probably out of his control. So sorry.
And it looks like he did have. Okay, so to answer that, he did have an agreement with UMG Recordings, which is the people who he works with, and it is to allow any of his songs to be licensed for advertising, but there is a claim that it included a clause that meant the singer had to personally approve any commercial that used his music. And DiMucci does say that Bethesda never reached out to him.
Well, but it sounds more like he should probably go after Universal for breach of contract then, rather than Bethesda.
You mean UMG Recordings?
Oh yeah, UMG is owned by Universal, so Alex is not wrong. So
yeah, so
yeah, it literally stands for Universal Music Group. So
yes, just saying individual companies, but yeah.
So it sounds more like a case of breach of contract, more so than Bethesda acting irrationally, because obviously I'm sure Bethesda got the proper clearance from UMG.
Probably paid the proper royalties, all that.
Yeah, and paid the proper licensing fee. So you should go after UMG, I think, more so than Bethesda. I know this isn't new.
So you think this ought to be more of an internal thing, not necessarily involving Bethesda?
Yeah, because this is not Bethesda's problem. It sounds like it should be UMG's deal to get to synchronize things with their artists more so than Bethesda. Bethesda's job should only be to produce the advertising and to acquire the proper licensing for the song and pay the proper fees.
Okay.
So if it's in your contract, that's a problem with your contract. It sounds like.
I kind of agree with you. I mean, like I think his first step ought to be going to Universal and then arguing it there. And if he wins in court, then he takes it to Bethesda and says, "Yeah, I won this case, and it was officially determined that yeah, my approval was not sought, and therefore this was a legal action," kind of thing. And then at that point, then you sue Bethesda. But first, you take that first step. So, Romney, it's time for the LA Law music to be playing once again. So your thoughts on this case?
Well, to be fair, Alex pretty much hit the nail on the head, where this very much something that this artist, DiMucci, should be bringing to his record label rather than going after Bethesda, because Bethesda had to license the song from the label in order to use it in the advertising. And so if he has a problem with it being used in the ad, it's not really Bethesda's fault. He should take it up with his record label and basically ask them why they never approached him for permission for use in this commercial. That really seems to be the main sticking point here, where it feels more that this musician has a moral objection to the images shown in the commercial advertising Fallout 4, but rather than doing the logical thing and asking his record label why they didn't come to him first to get his approval, he instead decided to take it out on the company advertising the product and demanding $1 million in damages. And so I'm not sure how far this is going to go. It may just be a case where he maybe didn't read the contract he signed when he signed on with Universal Music Group, which is a tale about as old as time itself. So honestly, there's probably not much that's going to amount from this lawsuit beyond basically a reiteration of, hey, why didn't you go to the label instead of going after Bethesda?
Yeah, and it seems to me like he jumped immediately to Bethesda. So I have a feeling Bethesda will probably win this one, and then he'll go through that his next step will be what he should have done for the first step. And unfortunately, now that he's had the Bethesda case kind of laughed out of the court, I don't see that doing well for him with Universal. Because I could literally see their lawyers saying, well, he actually tried to sue this other company, and since they ruled in favor, you guys should probably be able to rule in favor on our case too. I do feel bad for the guy, but yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. He really should have looked at what was in that contract. And then at that point, the other thing too that I find interesting is that, now we're hearing about this and it's July 2017. When was Fallout 4 released? November 2015, 2016? Something like that?
Let's find out.
Yeah, it's something like that. But then again, keep in mind, this is very similar to those lawsuits that we saw coming out where you had writers trying to sue Disney for like, oh, they stole the concepts from my novel for Frozen, or they stole my concept for Zootopia.
No, that's the argument that I'm going for, is that you waited so long. It's not going to work in your favor, I don't think.
Yeah.
Cue the Ace Attorney scene. Objection! Yes, well, I don't have that. I should, but no, it's not going to work. Yeah, and there's really not too much to add to this aside from, we'll wait to see what happens with the Bethesda lawsuit, because it looks like that's exactly what he's doing. DiMucci is going straight to Bethesda instead of bringing in his contract for Universal. So we'll have to see how this goes. I don't see it going well in his favor, especially given Bethesda's track record for cases. So let's go ahead and, if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and move on to the next story, which... Ooh. Hey, Konami. It's been a while. How you doing? So Konami's back in the news. This actually got sent to us via a listener, as well as I think it was Romney who found the story also, but he found it from a different source. I got the Kotaku article as well. So at the last year's Tokyo Game Show, in case you didn't see this, Hideo Kojima commented on Metal Gear Survive. Now, we've already made our comments clear on Metal Gear Survive, and for those who have been asking since we played the first Metal Gear, Romney, are we going to play Metal Gear Survive?
Hell no.
No. I don't even care his decision. No. It's not happening. I'm not doing Metal Gear meets Hunger Games. Ain't happening.
Metal Gear meets Hunger Games would make more sense. Hunger Games doesn't have zombies.
This is true. The only reason I'm going for Hunger Games is because the only thing that sticks out to me in that trailer was dude with a bow and arrow. And so at that point, to me, that immediately goes Hunger Games. I don't know why, because it's not a girl with a bow and arrow, but I do. And so, yeah. Hideo Kojima commented on his thoughts of Metal Gear Survive. They weren't positive. Let's put it that way. I think the direct question he got at the Tokyo Game Show was, were you involved in the process at all for Metal Gear Survive? Did you contribute some ideas? To which Kojima gave a resounding, hell no.
Yeah,
I was not involved in this process. I don't want to be involved in this process.
Well, at the same time, he was also very straightforward. He wasn't really being facetious about it. He just basically made it clear of, hey, I have no involvement. Yeah, and then he kind of went on to elaborate his thoughts on the concept itself, but that was his first thing, was saying that I have no connection to that.
Yes, his literal quotes after being translated were, I know absolutely nothing about it. That's because it's totally unrelated to me. How should I put this? Well, for me, Metal Gear is espionage with political fiction, right? So because of that, there's no reason that zombies would show up. And there you go. And, well, because he made those statements, Konami went and immediately started up on him again. But also, we've been getting light of all of the exodus of people leaving Konami to go work for other companies and the mistreatment that Konami is literally giving them. It's gotten so bad, guys, that literally other game companies like Capcom have actually said, if they're a former Konami employee, we just aren't touching that. We're not, they're not even going to give them a chance in the door, and it's simply because of all of the crap that Konami will later give if they find out that employee is trying to go to that other company. And it's actually gotten so bad, I didn't even realize this, and this is bull crap as far as I'm concerned. So if you work for Kojima Productions right now, you do not have health coverage. And the reason you don't have health coverage is because the company that they're trying to get their health coverage to will not approve their application. Why won't they approve their application? Well, it just so happens that the head of that or of that insurance company is also an employee of Konami.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember, I'm looking in the article right now for his position, but he's a higher up at Konami.
He's on the board of directors.
Yeah, there you go. He's on the board of directors. So he is refusing their application, and they've actually received a statement saying, yeah, the director directly refused you. The board didn't even get to vote.
Yeah, and
the director just said no.
And the reason that that's a problem is that actually flies in the face of the way the process is supposed to go,
yes.
Where it's not supposed to go to the director directly. It's supposed to go to the board first. So not only is it that they're straight up refusing, they're also breaking their own protocol to achieve this end.
Yes. So this is a nasty situation, and right now everybody affected is getting some level of damage. I mean, Konami's getting damage here, guys. They do not look good in this whole deal. In fact, the article that Kotaku refers to is a lot from Nikkei. I believe Nikkei has actually openly said that they're against all of this process. And a few game companies have actually said they do not agree with, while saving their butts, but they do not agree with what's going on in the Konami situation. And then you see the treatment of the employees and the treatment of Kojima Productions. It's a sad state. It's a sad state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially when I looked at some of the other articles that have come out. I don't know the exact ones where they actually did interview a lot of former Konami employees who, rightfully so, chose to remain anonymous because of the fact that Konami has gone out of the way to make it like, oh, Japanese TV stations don't regard them. How some of them literally try getting work in other fields and then try getting back into the game industry to basically throw off the scent, for lack of a better term.
Which I find funny because you were so interested, Konami, in making them janitors and security guards that when they try to go and work for somebody other than you in this field, you just can't let shit go, can you?
Nope. Like many people have pointed out, 2015 was the year that Konami lost its mind.
Yeah.
But then again, from the way a lot of these employees talk, apparently this is something that's been going on for quite a while. It just took Kojima's departure specifically to kind of drag it all out into the sunlight.
Oh, Kojima's come out and said this. Igarashi has also come out and confirmed a lot of these. Confirmed the fact that just how oppressive the environment was at Konami. And I do know of one other director, but his name escapes me right now, who's also pretty much said, yeah, this is a pretty oppressive environment. So at that point, they're not surprised how things have evolved the way they have. So yeah, this is kind of a craptastic situation. Alex, your thoughts on... I don't even want to call it Konami Gate. I really don't. I want to go with the hashtag #FKonami.
Well, you know my feeling about applying Gate to anything. I think it's stupid, but it's my God. It's like, what is with this company? It boggles my mind, I guess. Just like, oh, you go to links to blackball your ex-employees. Yeah. There have been some stuff that is like made marginal sense, terrible, but marginal sense, like, you know, random emails. You want to, like, random email addresses that periodically change. Well, okay, you want to prevent, like, corporate leaks, fair enough. But then you talk about, like, oh, we're going to deny your health coverage because somebody in our company sits on the board of directors for health insurance. We're going to blacklist you, basically, and prevent you from ever getting a job. You know, this goes from beyond non-compete to, well, blacklisting. And it's like, what on earth? What?
I mean, the first thought that comes to my mind is, okay, this is in Japan, and this behavior, it isn't acceptable now, but it might have been acceptable like 5 years ago. Think about this happening in the States. If Konami was immediately doing this stuff, like, I'm not saying Konami, like a company here was doing this stuff, it'd be acceptable. Every news media would be covering it every night.
Yeah, not to mention that
would literally be in the dump by the next day.
Well, yeah, not to mention it wouldn't even be the court of public opinion, because a lot of people tend to forget about this with Japan. There are laws that we kind of take for granted here in the United States that comes through like welfare for employees and stuff like that just straight up don't exist in Japan, because of a lot of the way their systems work. I mean, the Constitution we have, like, for example, there is no First Amendment in Japan, to kind of give you an idea of how different. There is no actual law protecting freedom of speech, so that's what allows companies like Konami to get away with crap like this, because there's no penalty for it. If it happened here in the U.S., the Federal Trade Commission alone would come down on them with a lot of fervor, and so that's kind of the messed up problem with Japan's economic system, is that companies can get away with this because, well, they're so low conflict that no one actually wants to do anything to actually, you know, stop it.
Well, and on top of that, it brings to light the bigger problem here is that Konami is entrenched in so many other organizations that it does create a problem where these employees are literally getting blacklisted. They shouldn't be getting blacklisted, but they are. And the reason they are is because Konami has such pull, or in the concept of fellow game developers who just don't want to get involved. The only people that I can actually think of, like, that would immediately want to fight them off might be Nintendo, but I have a feeling Nintendo would probably have a similar position to them at this point. So
yeah, if anything, Nintendo would pretty much be the very much, oh, well, we don't want to get entangled with any of this unless they're doing something that steps on our toes. Well, that's always been Nintendo's stance.
What I was actually saying is, like, if let's just replace the heads here. Instead of Kojima put Miyamoto, would Nintendo react the exact same way that Konami has? And I'd actually say, yeah, probably. They probably would. And that's a sad state of affairs, but that's the way it is, unfortunately, in Japan right now. So it's unfortunate, but I really do hope that this situation gets rectified somehow. I mean, Kojima could bring them in because he knows exactly what's going on, and he's already under fire anyway. But it could be that he just doesn't have the money.
Yep, especially given that his new company has yet to actually release their first game, which is very much going to put a lot of pressure on the success of Death Stranding, because if it tanks, there's a lot more riding on this game now, because if it tanks, that could not only spell doom for the company, but it'll also spell doom for all the people that went with Kojima away from Konami.
Or another message that I'm actually getting from somebody on Twitter is, well, what if one of those guys didn't want to do Death Stranding? What if they actually had an idea for like a mobile game or whatever? The problem is that Kojima's budget is in Death Stranding right now. That's his budget. I think if Death Stranding were out and it was successful, would he consider other games? Sure, I think he would. But right now, that's not the case. This is the make it or break it game for his studio. And unfortunately, like, we all have faith that he'll do it. I mean, we really do, because Kojima's been able to knock out hit after hit. But now you have to look at this as a fledgling company, which is he doesn't have that clout. He had that clout under Konami. So now he needs to prove himself. And unfortunately for all those employees, I'm sure he'd love to bring them in, but they may not have the expertise that he wants. And as much as he would like to bring them in to make a platformer, he can't afford to do so. So at that point, maybe he's observing the situation and keeping tabs on them, but I don't think he's doing anything else aside from that. So I think we hit everybody. Alex, Romney, maybe Romney we didn't hit, but Romney's kind of given his opinion throughout.
Yeah.
All right.
I think I said it before when Romney last mentioned the fact that Konami was literally blocking Kojima Productions' health insurance, please. And I was convinced, and I'm still convinced, Konami is literally being ran by the Yakuza right now. Probably always has.
Something like that, yeah. Something like that.
I'm sure Nintendo has its Yakuza ties too. I mean, both are very long-established companies, and I don't think you get around that long without making a few partners in the world of organized crime, but
I'm not confirming or denying, but right now I think it's just that unfortunately Konami is just run by a bunch of horrible human beings who can't take the fact they've lost. So that's just the way it is. And unfortunately there's not a whole lot we can do about it, except scream at them when they think that erotic violence is a thing.
Yeah, and basically it kind of goes back to the point of vote with your dollar. If you truly believe that what Konami is doing is absolutely repugnant, well, don't give them any money.
I mean, if you were planning on buying Metal Gear Survive and you have been following all this, don't. I would actually here's the thing. I've considered, like, if they did a Castlevania collection or whatever, whether or not I'd actually buy it. And it's simply because of how Konami is treating everybody. I don't think they will, because 80% of their overall revenue isn't even in video games anymore. It's in pachinko machines. It's in gambling and all that stuff. So I don't think we actually have to worry about this. But it does make me actually consider, if the next Yu-Gi-Oh game comes out, do I actually want to purchase it just to try it out? Probably not.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and start up the entertainment portion of the evening. And thankfully, we get some good news out of Japan. At least I perceive it as good news. And that was the announcement that Hideaki Anno, as soon as this thing can bring it up on my... took forever. Come on, there we go. Hideaki Anno has unveiled Project Studio Q to train animators in Kyushu. So the article that we're getting this off of from Anime News Network kind of goes into the whole problem that a good portion of anime animators are based in Tokyo. But we've already kind of reported earlier on that animators are starting to become few and far between because they literally work themselves into the grave. But Anno has made a separate idea available here, which is Project Studio Q, being able to train young animators in the Kyushu region of Japan, and it would focus on CG techniques like digital art, things like that. And the project does aim to gather talent from animators outside of Tokyo, citing that as of 2016, there were 622 anime production companies in Japan, with 87.1% of them located in Tokyo. So he would be basically saying, we're going to get these guys out to Kyushu, and we're going to kind of start up a whole new kind of branch down here. We're going to train young animators. And both Studio Kara, as well as, and if I'm saying this wrong, Alex and Romney are going to correct me, Dwengo? Is that how it's said? Both Studio Kara and Dwango are going to be helping to fund this initiative. So I don't even know, like, do you guys know what Dwango has done?
Yeah, Dwango's a huge publisher production house, so they've done many anime over the decades. So, but most recently, them and Anno have teamed up to do the Japan Animator Expo, which has produced a lot of those impressive shorts. One of the most well known being the Me short, which got a lot of critical praise and attention, especially overseas.
As well as the article actually does say the Dragon Dentist is another one of theirs.
Yeah, that's also Studio Kara.
So now in details for this, the project is collaborating for them, and it has opened up in Fukuoka's city Hakata ward on April 1st. And Anno Studio Kara is handling the lecturing with assistance from staff by Dwango. And both Kara and Dwango will be sending a lecturer for this project.
Yeah, looking at this, they're also in collaboration with the ASO group, and specifically the ASO Pop Culture College. So it's also, they're looking for talent that are actually going to this pop culture college to learn how to animate. So it's kind of the equivalent of when Park City, if, like, say for the sake of example, if this did happen, where we have the Park City Film Studios that opened up in Park City, teaming up with UVU and setting up an internship program. It's kind of similar to that, where it's like, okay, we started this new studio, we're going to partner with a college, so that way we have basically a track for students who are trying to get into this industry.
Exactly. And not only that, but also giving them a whole new area, because I actually tried to look up the Kyushu area, and it doesn't seem to be as much of an urban area. So maybe what they're trying to do is also kind of give more of an open environment for creativity to flow. I might be wrong about that. I've only seen a few images of Kyushu from Google Images, but it does seem to me like Tokyo is the New York City of Japan. It's nothing but urban development, and Kyushu at least kind of gives the feel of like maybe mildly big city, but a lot of suburbs. So you can get a little bit more creativity flowing that way. Also, just to take some of that pressure out of Tokyo. I can't help but kind of giggle at the fact that we were just barely covering, I think it was last week or the week before, the problem of animators literally running themselves into the grave, trying to get these projects out. And now Anno is not only looking to revitalize the animation industry in a new area, but also trying to do it more effectively. And this is actually probably the way, at least in my opinion, it should go. Like, a veteran animator should be the guy to lead the charge. I just don't, like, when I think about the fact that he's not doing it in Tokyo, I kind of wonder if part of that is just because maybe Tokyo feels too encumbered, feels too big to try and do it there. So he's trying to start fresh somewhere else.
I think I think kind of the issue also there is because Tokyo is so expensive, especially for newly starting out animators. In-betweeners don't get paid a whole lot of money, especially, and that's probably where you're going to start if you're going to be an animator, being an in-betweener. So I feel like this, and I'm seeing this with a lot of other studios too, opening branches around different Japan regions, is that attempt to hopefully kind of curtail staffing shortages and be able to help people who probably don't have the means to survive in Tokyo purely on a subsistence animator's wage, get into the industry a little easier.
Yeah. And frankly, I've got to hand a compliment over to Anno. I actually think it's an awesome thing for him, because I'm not going to say he's the oldest veteran in the animation industry. I'm pretty sure there's still people out there much older than him. I mean, well, Miyazaki came back and he tutored under him. But I think it's actually a good idea for a veteran like Anno to be leading the charge here, to be able to revitalize the animation industry and get some new animators in there. When we're already hearing about all the problems in it, and especially getting them used to the new way things are done.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to add in is that it's almost kind of similar to how what we're experiencing here in the United States, where you're starting to see film production moving away from Hollywood, kind of trying to decentralize the production of media in order to not only just to address like labor shortages, but also so that you're no longer having everything based solely in Tokyo, but that way you can also just get more of a different perspective, a different style almost, by focusing on a different area. Because let's face it, Tokyo is, even if you're a salaryman, Tokyo is kind of a hectic place to live.
Yeah.
And so in places like, I don't know much about Kyushu, but it may also just be aiming to try to decentralize the production of media in Japan just a little bit, to try to kind of counteract some of the more disastrous trends the industry is currently creating for itself.
Yeah, when you see current images of Tokyo, it's almost claustrophobic, just how much of an urban environment it is. Like, look, I live close to an urban environment, but I wouldn't dare say that it was New York standards. I would not say that it was LA or San Francisco standards. Those are big urban areas, big urban metropolis areas. So at that point, I think that's a different deal. And that's kind of my same problem with them too, is that it feels claustrophobic. And again, I know I shouldn't go down this path, but I like the fact that with Kyushu, you have a little bit more open space for people to be, people to, and especially when they're trying to get into this creative profession, allows them to be creative. If they're having those problems, they don't have to go down to, the nearest McDonald's or whatever. They can actually go out to a park and figure this stuff out. And I think Anno has planned this out accordingly. It might just be to their benefit to help creativity flow. So I know I keep on bouncing back to the Kyushu area, but I do believe that Anno picked this for a reason. Like, he could have easily said, "Nah, we're going to go to Osaka, or we're going to go to Canada." And he picked the Kyushu region specifically.
Canada.
I mean, on the one hand,
he was done with Japan, and he decided to go out there to where the hockey hosers are. But here in Nobu Sakaguchi's.
Well, to be fair, though, that would shorten the amount of time it would take to probably dub the anime, given that a bunch of dubbing studios are in Canada, so...
Yeah. So, Alex, your thoughts on Anno's recent initiative here, Project Studio Q?
It's a great idea, and you're right. Anno's real. The thing I've really come to like about Anno, especially with these efforts, is Anno 2 has been kind of the doomsayer of where the industry might be going, but I feel like he is actively trying to find ways to help kind of revitalize it or change some of the conditions that go on with it, rather than just sort of, again, shouting from the rooftops the industry's doomed, like Hayao Miyazaki's done for many decades now. So Anno, I feel like, actually has made the efforts. We've seen this with the Japan Animator Expo that he co-launched with the Wango again, and now with this. And like I said earlier, I think kind of splitting up these studios and making more regional branches is a real good way to kind of stem the labor shortages that the industry is facing, because, as I said, Tokyo is super expensive to live, and if you're starting animator, it's pretty darn hard to stay fit and stay living. It's no wonder why there's so much burnout. That's also why other projects like the Animator Dormitory Project exists. That began as a Kickstarter like a couple of years ago. I actually contributed to it. As far as I know, it's up and successfully running, though they still take donations.
I think this is going to work out to be a good thing in the long run. Romney, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's definitely nice to see at least someone with as much clout as Anno trying to actually address some of the issues of the anime industry by actually doing something different, because we often see a lot of cases of, as they say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. Here it very much looks like, okay, let's actually do something to revitalize the industry. It kind of even goes back to the reason he created Evangelion in the first place was, hey, let's create something new and different that doesn't feel like everything else that came before it. Granted, that's led to a bunch of other shows that now feel like everything that came before it, including Ava. But that's always kind of been one thing I've noticed about Anno, is that he's all about, okay, let's actually find a way to revitalize the industry that is new and different, instead of trying to create some magical formula like all the other studios.
It's funny you should bring up Ava, because I got another comment basically saying, so basically what he's doing is he's hiring brand new animators so that he can drive them insane with Ava 4.0 like he did with all the others. It's hard to argue with that. Because I have a feeling that like he probably did drive a couple of his animators quite insane when he was doing the rebuilds, but you know, this is definitely an argument that could be had. It's like, fresh college students, I'll wreck them just like I did the Ava 3.33 crew.
Well, sadly, that is another thing that does happen in the anime industry, where you either have the new talent that goes up the ranks, or you have the old guard basically learn all the new techniques from the new talent to the point where the new talent is more or less cannibalized.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this at least right now has the best of intentions. We'll see if it actually turns out to be a worthwhile endeavor for both Anno as well as for Dwango and for the animators that are going to be coming out of it. Let's go ahead and move on into the next story, which is we're talking once again about our buddy Adi Shankar. So if in case you haven't seen the Netflix Castlevania, I'm going to go ahead and reemphasize this, even though I said I wouldn't, because I was just trolling Alex. But if you guys want, on Sunday, we are going to be doing a bonus episode of the Netflix Castlevania and giving our thoughts on it, which is, you know, me and Romney have already put out our own videos on it, but Alex is going to watch it for the first time. And so we'll be able to get his unique opinion. And whether or not you guys want it, let us know in the chat whether or not it should be live or just to tape, and then you guys will watch it later. So that being said, we're talking about Adi Shankar again, and I'm going to try and keep the panel, as well as myself, to not speak about Castlevania, aside from just kind of loosely alluding to it, because Adi Shankar has also recently announced, on Wednesday, in fact, that his next project will be a series based on Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed. Because that movie did so well, right? I mean, it did so well. We saw it like 3 or 4 times, right, Romney? And we just didn't do a review on it.
Yeah, that's totally what happened.
And by that I mean saw it 3 or 4 times. I meant we took 3 or 4 steps outside of our houses and then said, "Yeah, we got better crap to do."
Yeah. Oh, and for me, it wasn't even so much, I've got better stuff to do. It's just there were other movies that came out, and I got busy.
So yeah, I'll admit, when I saw this, because here's the thing, Shankar has he has a record now. He has Power / Rangers. He has Castlevania. And I think he had another project that he was also talking about doing with Netflix. Oh, what was it? Because we covered it. Because he wanted to do it. I can't remember. No, that was right. He wanted to do like a legit Power Rangers thing. So he didn't want to do Power / Rangers.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, he did want to do an animated series that expanded on the concept of Power / Rangers that basically reimagined the first 3 seasons through that same gritty lens.
Yes. So without actually mentioning Castlevania, because we will go into that on Sunday, I mean, because here's the thing. Shankar likes to go down the gritty reboot angle. It's very clear he likes to do that. And without spoiling, Castlevania is that for the most part. But the difference is that series kind of works with that deal. Assassin's Creed. I just don't want another Assassin's Creed movie animated story adaptation right now. I want to see them bring the games back to glory before I do any of that. And on top of that, Shankar, I just don't know if he's the guy to be able to do it, because I don't want a dark take on Assassin's Creed. I actually want to have something that is not as gritty as that. But my bottom line right now is I don't even want any of this until we fix the games. Fix the games first, Ubisoft, and then we'll talk about these adaptations.
Yeah, honestly, I can see the appeal of wanting to make Assassin's Creed expand to other media. I mean, they've had moderate success with the comics movie, notwithstanding. Again, never been able to watch it, probably for the best. But I can see the appeal, especially in the wake of successful franchises like Dan Brown's novels like The Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, Inferno. Kind of that whole hidden history genre has a certain appeal to it. But like you said, it's not even just, get the games in order. It's just get the story and the continuity in order. I mean, it's fascinating to do this whole hidden history of the assassins, but they've strayed very far away from what the initial concept was, which was, oh, you're experiencing the ancestors of a modern main character, and it was initially supposed to lead to something before they decided, no, let's make this like Call of Duty and ramrod one out every single year. Doesn't matter if it's half finished and glitchy to hell.
Yeah, I mean, I really wish I had better stuff to say on this. I really wish that I could say, oh yeah, go ahead and do this because Assassin's Creed's great. And yeah, no, not so much. Alex, your thoughts on Adi Shankar taking on Assassin's Creed?
I really don't care. I've never played any Assassin's Creed, so I only care about the Castlevania Netflix series because, well, you and I have played Castlevania on Dragon Shadows, so that's at least got me interested. But I have no interest in Assassin's Creed, and I don't really care if he makes it or not.
Yeah, I'm kind of there. And what actually makes me worried is that later in the article that we're taking off of Anime News Network is all of the other stuff he wants to do. We already mentioned that he wants a darker take on Power Rangers, and then he also says he would love to do an R-rated live-action film based on Capcom's Mega Man franchise.
Well, I can see it somewhat working if you're, say, basing it off of Mega Man X or Mega Man Zero, because those storylines do tend a bit darker, but if you actually want to see a good example of a dark Mega Man, look up the YouTube channel Dayside TV. They do a bunch of short films based on video games, but done in the style of Hong Kong martial arts movies, and their take on Mega Man actually did create a way that a dark Mega Man story could work. And it's actually enjoyable. So if Adi Shankar were to bring up the people over at Dayside TV, you probably would have something.
If it was X, I'd have no issue with it because, again, dark, gritty, that kind of works with the X series. But he's saying Mega Man. And to me, that just doesn't work because Mega Man is still light, and I'll see the video you're talking about. But I always like to think of Mega Man as the lighthearted end of the franchise, and X is the dark, gritty side of the franchise.
Yeah. Then again, to that, I would say it can be both. I mean, to use the closest corollary example that a lot of people compare it to, when you look at Astro Boy and how dark some of the storylines in Astro Boy, and this is like classic Tezuka style, and how dark and depressing the storylines in Astro Boy can get, so much so that one of the storylines literally led to a spin-off called Pluto, done in a completely dark style, but still telling the same basic story of one of the key villains. R-rated Mega Man doesn't seem that far off, but my worry is that it's specifically Shankar. If Shankar's at the helm, I worry, but the Dayside TV video showed me that it can be done if you have the right people. Personally, Shankar's not the right person.
And we just barely got this comment in the chat. Later, he will make Power Rangers versus Assassin's Creed in the Castlevania world. Zero the hero, to quote Donald Trump, you fired.
Honestly, though, it wouldn't be that... Considering what they were doing in the comics, in the Power Rangers comics, it wouldn't be that far-fetched. It really wouldn't.
Don't want it, though. All right. There really isn't a whole lot that we could go on this one aside from Adi Shankar. Like, I have a feeling this will get brought up on Sunday as well as, like, after seeing Castlevania, how do we feel about him taking on other franchises? Right now, I'm not comfortable with it. And it's just because depending on the franchise he takes on, I think he could do really, really well because, obviously he did get Castlevania renewed for season 2, but if he gets a lighthearted franchise and tries to make it all dark and gritty, I just don't see it working. Just because some franchises don't work that way. I mean, for crying out loud, I've already heard, this is in the rumor mill, I haven't actually seen an official statement on this, but he's also one of those guys who's like, I would love to get Legend of Zelda. No, I would never hand Zelda over to you.
And once again, I would say, if you want to see a darker version on Zelda done right, again, Dayside TV, they did a Zelda film too.
Okay, all right, we'll check that out. Well, unless we have other stuff to add on this one, let's get to the last story that we have for the entertainment portion of the evening. And that is more news in the live-action Aladdin movie. So it looks like if people remember Naomi Scott from the most recent Power Rangers film, she played Kimberly. She is being eyed to play Jasmine, as the filmmakers are struggling to cast that title role. So Naomi Scott is right now, I think, the front runner for who they want to play Jasmine, at least to director Guy Ritchie and casting director Andy Hiller. And I've already seen at least some internet squabble of, I don't really hate that pick, and then others going, just because they can. Right now, personally, I don't hate the pick. Naomi Scott, I think, could pull off Jasmine. I think she's got the look as well as I think she would get the character, but, well, if she gets on to play Jasmine, it does make me wonder, okay, where is that sequel for Power Rangers? Is it even going to happen? If not, then sure, go and do Aladdin. I probably won't see it, but enjoy yourself.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is just very much rumor at this point. The only person we know for sure who's attached is Guy Ritchie, which raises a whole bunch of questions about what direction this film is going to go. But even looking at the original Hollywood Reporter article that IGN is pulling its information from, it's been a bit of a struggle as they're trying to find people to fill out this role that have some sort of recognition with an audience. So probably the reason why someone like Naomi Scott is being headhunted here is because, well, people have seen her in things, and Power Rangers was, although it didn't do as well at the box office, it did well critically, and that carries a little bit of marquee value. Yeah,
I mean, like, you may need to correct me on this, Romney, but I think right now we can officially say that Power Rangers has hit all the markets, because I think when we covered in the episode, the Japanese market or one of the Asian markets wasn't going to get it until this month. So at that point, they're still going to be able to get some revenue from that. We don't know how much.
And we especially don't know if they've made enough to warrant the 6 sequels that Saban is allegedly planning.
Or at least the one. But at this point, I kind of agree with you. Despite the lack of financial success, it has been getting a lot of critical praise. And in particular, the young actors who played the 5 are getting a lot of praise for the roles that they had to fill. So I think it actually would probably work to put Naomi Scott in there, because she's got the look of Jasmine, and I think she'd be able to handle the role seriously. But I agree with you. It's becoming really difficult, it looks like, for them to fill these roles.
Especially looking at the Hollywood Reporter article, the studio, like, so far there are actually 2 main frontrunners. You have Naomi Scott, but then you also have an Indian actress, Tara Suntaria, who is also in consideration, but apparently the casting of Jasmine is currently on hold until they can lock down whoever is playing Aladdin, since chemistry is the key thing here. They want to make sure that they've got Aladdin locked down, and then they'll bring in the ones they're considering for Jasmine to see who has, like, which of them can elicit better chemistry. Because
what makes this worse is I don't even think they have picks for Aladdin right now, do they?
No, the studio did express interest in actors like Dev Patel and Riz Ahmed, but currently their rumor has it is that it may be an unknown actor that they're bringing in to play the role, and that they're trying to shuffle more of the marquee value onto some of the other characters. I mean, we already reported that Will Smith has signed on to play the genie. They're also looking for a known actor to play Jafar. Calling it now, they're probably going to call Ben Kingsley, because let's face it, who else can you actually see playing Jafar?
You know what? This is actually one of those times where I wouldn't mind Jeremy Irons coming in and hamming the crap out of it.
Just wait for the Lion King live-action remake.
He's not going to get brought into that. He's not going to get brought into that. What are you going to do? No, they're not going to do him.
Yeah, honestly, though, like, again, I'd be pushing for Ben Kingsley, because that's more or less the character he played in Prince of Persia, and basically every character he's played since, well, forever. And so, honestly,
let's just be honest. Ben Kingsley plays Ben Kingsley in these films, is what he does.
Pretty much, but let's face it, I could see him as Jafar, because, well, most of the other films we've seen him in, like Prince of Persia, like Thunderbirds, he basically has played the conniving villain, so it's just bringing the thing full circle. But honestly, to get back on point, that seems to be the direction they're going with, is that they're looking for a newcomer actor to play Aladdin, since it's clear that they're struggling to find anyone known, and so they're trying to bank it more on these side characters like Jasmine, like the genie, and Jafar, because the villain makes the movie. And so far, it's still all rumor at this point. They're still only in preliminary casting. Nothing has been signed yet, except for basically Will Smith and Guy Ritchie, and that is it.
Yep. Alex, your thoughts on casting Naomi Scott as Jasmine?
Good for her. I guess it'll help her boost her career some, but I still don't care because I don't care about the live-action Aladdin movie.
Yeah, I'll admit, the first time I actually saw this story and when the listener brought it to my attention, I'm like, well, okay, that's great, but where's this genie prequel we keep on saying it, or we keep on hearing is going to happen?
I've heard it's more or less been shelved because they were going to use material that was left over from the recording sessions for Aladdin, but then the stipulations in the late Robin Williams' will pretty much put the kibosh on that. I looked into it a little bit, since there was an actual clause that for like 20 plus years, none of the material Williams recorded for any studio can be used posthumously for any purpose. That's like a strict, hard stipulation. So unless they decide to make a Genie prequel based on the Will Smith Genie, it's probably not going to happen.
I can already tell you, I wouldn't see it. Already, he's like the biggest problem I have with the Aladdin movie, and therefore I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So Jiro the Hero has also pointed out in the chat, ham it up with Willem Dafoe as Jafar.
I can actually see that.
Are we talking about like Green Goblin kind of ham it up? Because if so, then honestly, sure.
Well, I mean, that's more or less what you wanted with Jeremy Irons, and well, Willem Dafoe can deliver some pretty good ham.
He can. I was more going along the lines of Dungeons and Dragons, Jeremy Irons, which is just like, I don't even care anymore. I'm just going to go nuts. But yeah. You're kind of right. But I mean, here's the thing too: is Ben Kingsley, again, while playing Ben Kingsley, he's going to ham it up too as Jafar.
Yeah, but honestly, now I'm thinking, I can definitely see Willem Dafoe doing it, especially like. Because again, like Willem Dafoe is actually one of my favorite actors, and seeing him, like when you consider the character of Jafar, someone who is smooth talking and conniving, but has those moments where, especially with a character like Aladdin, where he loses his cool, he snaps. I'm just like, okay, I would just pay to see Willem Dafoe perform that kind of scene because that would just be fun to watch.
It would be. I'll admit that Willem Dafoe can ham it up like no other.
Plus, I mean,
like I said, if he was doing Green Goblin ham it up, then yeah, he'd work as Jafar.
Well, I mean, the flying carpet is close enough to the glider. It would work.
Now I'm just thinking about that one moment. I can't even remember the line where he flies in and kills all the board of directors. It was so dumb.
Out am I?
Out am I? There you go.
I'm just reminded of
the cold shiver down your spine.
I'm just reminded of the moment where he's like flying. It's the bridge scene. And he's just like, the itsy spitsy spider went up the water spout.
You want to watch him ham it up as another villain? Watch Speed 2. Speed 2 is an awful movie, but he's great in that movie because he's great in everything he does.
The thought that immediately comes to my mind, and maybe it's because they came close together, I love the moment where he goes all schizo. And it may be because Two Towers came out around that time, and the schizo moment with Gollum was really awesome. But I love the schizo moment with Willem Dafoe talking to the mask of the Green Goblin. That was amazing.
Heart, Osborn. First we attack his heart.
Yes, exactly. And eventually he's crawling on the ground. He's like, what do I do to earn your satisfaction? So as you guys can obviously tell, Naomi Scott's not the problem here. We don't care. If they bring her in, great. Because I think she did a good enough performance. But again, chemistry is a thing, and she needs to be able to interact with the Aladdin that's going to be in there. My concern obviously is still with Will Smith as a genie. I'm never going to get over that.
Yeah, I mean, at least there's one benefit that, like, yeah, you have a rapper as a genie, but at least this is a rapper who actually knows how to rap, unlike Shaq.
Cause I am Kazam.
Let's green egg and ham it.
See, and I'm about to say something that's going to piss off Alex. I'm debating whether or not I should actually say it.
Because we all
Unlike his predecessor, Will Smith doesn't know how to be funny.
Yes, he does. You just hate him because you hate everybody and everything that never did anything to you. Because you and I hate everything, still need to get together and go bowling sometimes. Then you'll both say you hate bowling.
And then you want us to get together for sewing, and then we'll say that we hate sewing.
Sure, that too, I guess.
All right.
Mostly bowling.
Still doesn't account for the fact that Will Smith can't tell a joke as well as Robin Williams.
Well, he's not a stand-up comedian, so... Well, Robin Williams is a stand-up comedian.
To be honest, I don't think Will Smith knows what he is anymore.
Well,
yeah, that's probably the most accurate. Yeah, but he's not really sure what kind of actor he wants to be. Is probably the key thing here, especially given that he spent a good chunk of time out of the limelight while trying to make his kid famous.
Yeah, something like that. William is going to be the voice of Ryuk in the TV. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Willem Dafoe will be playing Ryuk in the TV Death Note. So,
yeah, but
don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, but to get back on point, like, good for Naomi Scott that she's in consideration. But honestly, like the only reason I may see the Aladdin remake is not because of any of the actors, but I'm just like, okay, I'm curious to see just how gonzo this is going to be, given that it's Guy Ritchie at the helm, because Guy Ritchie is known for just going absolutely insane with his movies.
Well, and let's just be honest about this other concept too, is that, again, chemistry aside, like, who do we actually think is more likely to get this role, the Naomi or the Indian actress? Because frankly, Indian actress and Indian actor, maybe they've worked together, so they have that chemistry. That's the other thing to consider too, is like, I get Naomi Scott is a good actress, and I think she's a good pick for that role. But if they already have Indian actor and actress, I have a feeling they'll probably be leaning towards that direction.
Not necessarily, because another key thing is, I mean, again, to use Ghost in the Shell as an example, studios want to have someone that you can put on the marquee that people will recognize. And yes, sure, Naomi Scott was in Power Rangers, but that film was more or less an ensemble film. So although she has that under her belt, that may not be enough to actually draw the crowd in. And so that's why you still have those two actors in consideration, and a lot of it hinges upon who they get to play Aladdin and if that chemistry is there. So if they go with the Indian actor and Indian actress, then that means they're probably going to heavily promote whoever is going to be playing Jafar, as well as Will Smith as Genie. So there's still a lot we don't know, especially considering that they're still in preliminary casting, and especially given that it's going to be an unknown playing Aladdin. In terms of just which would be easier, it may be better to go with another unknown actress as Jasmine, and then really hyping up whoever is playing Jafar.
Yeah, probably. Because I have a feeling Will Smith's probably also going to be part of that hype too, because he's got the marquee power. I don't know why he does, but he has the marquee power.
Well, mainly it's nostalgia. That's really what it is with Will Smith at this point, is that people go to see things he's in mainly because of nostalgia for previous films like Independence Day, as well as other things like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Welcome to Earth.
See, and that's why I don't have the respect for him, because I don't have that nostalgia. Independence Day, Jeff Goldblum made that funny, not Will Smith.
Yeah, but at the same time,
Black, Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones. So. Yeah, but you'd be surprised the power of nostalgia.
No, I agree. I'm just giving Alex crap at this point. So let's go ahead and wrap things up. So we do actually have a listener question that unfortunately we weren't able to get to last week, but I think we've got enough time that we can actually get to it this week. And that was, when you're a geek, you tend to be a geek of different formats or different shows or things like that. But we got a little bit more of a broad spectrum of what would you consider yourself to be the biggest thing you are a geek of. And I actually reached out to this listener to say, like, what specifically are you meaning? And the meaning is more along the lines of, would you consider yourself more like, it's more like how you consume the media rather than what show you're a fan of. And so at that point, I'm going to stick to the spirit here, but I'm also going to say, like, if you want to put in the biggest genre or whatever that you are a geek of, you can obviously put that in too. So like, what are you, a bigger book geek, a bigger movie geek, a bigger TV geek, things like that, as well as a gamer or anything like that. And for me, well, I think my channel kind of says it the most, which is I don't have anything against books or TV or movies because I do them, but I probably would consider my geekdom to be more judged by gaming because I've done gaming a lot of my life. I've also loved anime and other things like that, but I've always been a gamer and have always been interested in the stories that games are trying to tell. And then if I was to actually kind of narrow down a genre, it probably would be... I love robots. I don't even want to label it to the mecha genre of anime. I just love it when giant robots are involved in a show whatsoever, and it doesn't necessarily need to be an anime. So I love I guess that you would put me in the sci-fi bracket in that regard. Even though I do like fantasy and tend to stick with that stuff more along the lines of I'm not interested in real life. I'm just interested in other stories that people can tell me. Alex the Shadow Blazer, what would you consider yourself more a consumer of?
Well, mine's a pretty boring, obvious answer. It is, of course, anime. Pretty much Japanime. I don't know how much more to say. I think everybody kind of knows where my passions lie on that one.
Okay, and so at that point, do you want to throw in a genre or anything like that? Or
yes, yeah. I mean, I guess just any kind of drama is, even if the drama is sort of an extension of another genre. Just any kind of good character story I like, whether it's like a really heavy hitting drama or just kind of more of a light, fluffier kind. It's just any kind of good character story. That's usually where it factors into the drama, even when that drama is just an extension of another genre.
Okay. And Romney, I can already see is deep in thought. So what would you consider yourself to be the most as far as consumption of geeky content?
Honestly, that's a bit of a tough question. Since I kind of go across the board, I'm not like one of those, I solely game, or I solely watch movies, or I solely read books. I tend to go all across the board in terms of the medium in which I consume what I'm interested in. But I can kind of boil it down to a few major subject matters that kind of draw my interest. The first major thing that it's been what I've been interested in since I was a kid, and that would be things related to the martial arts. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of martial arts movies, martial arts anime. I have a lot of various books about martial arts on my bookshelf, like not just like manga like Rurouni Kenshin, but also like philosophy stuff like the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. I realize I pronounced that incorrectly since it's the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, but stuff like that. So the first thing is like a lot of the stuff I was interested in from a very young age involved martial arts. That's also why I'm interested in Power Rangers, why I also like movies starring Jackie Chan. That's why Forbidden Kingdom is one of my most favorite films, because you have Jackie Chan and Jet Li in the same movie, which blew my mind when it came out, because you rarely got to see those two together in a film. And so that's the first major geeky thing, is things related to the martial arts, whether it's reading about them, playing video games involving them, like fighting games, or even watching really good movies about them, like Forbidden Kingdom, which is more fantasy, or something more realistic, like, well, The Karate Kid.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say, I'm using the prompt where it's like listing 3. The second thing that kind of ties into that is film. Again, obvious, film critic, but not just like film, like, watching all these movies, but more learning about the history of film, how things are made, how things were done. Like, okay, how did they do, say, that long tracking shot from Touch of Evil? Or how did they do this really complicated animation sequence from, off the top of my head, let's say, for the sake of example, I know the sequence, I just don't remember what film it's from. It'll come to me, but that's like the other thing, is specifically film history and the way films are made. That's kind of why I'm a film critic. And then the third thing, and it kind of comes from living in a house with 2 other people that are really into anthropology, but that would be ancient mythology. Greek, Norse, Irish, like a lot of those old mythological stories that can they're basically a nice treasure trove of inspiration. So, I mean, of course, as a kid, I was really into the Greek myths, reading about characters like Heracles, Perseus, and even more tragic stories like Orpheus, for example. But then you also get other fascinating stories, like the original stories following Thor, and even the story of Ragnarok with Jormungandr, the world-eating serpent, as well as stories of characters like Finn McCool or Cuchulainn. And so that's also something that I kind of consider myself a geek of. I mean, I literally have whole books talking about various occult monsters like vampires, werewolves, loup-garou, so on and so forth. So that's also another thing I would consider myself a geek of that I consume across different media.
Okay. Here's the thing. My argument is kind of the same as you. I just consider myself to be a general all-around geek. So to try and narrow things down, I mean, I had to go with, you know, what the channel is based around. But frankly, that's why I have the Why We Geek podcast, is because I do like going into those other various forums. And I think that's going to go ahead and do it, because we've answered the question, and thank you guys so much for giving that, and you guys can continue to do so, and we'll get to them when we can. The other thing too that people wanted us to talk about, but unfortunately I don't think they realized what day it was. Somebody actually did reach out and say, what do you think of the Kingdom Hearts announcements? They haven't come out yet. They're due tomorrow. So I have a feeling that we'll cover them at some point if they're big enough announcements. But yeah, unfortunately, it's tomorrow, guys. So sorry. But let's go ahead and wrap things up for the evening. So if people want to be able to get a hold of us to talk about our various opinions on situations, as well as check out the content that we actually do provide, Alex, how do they do that with you?
Well, of course, you can find me on YouTube. Channel Blizzard 3000 is my channel where I do produce anime reviews and other anime-related content. And once again, I just want to plug the fact that I am doing a live stream, or I guess by the time this is up, that'll be done. But we'll have a 400 subscriber special live stream Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time.
All right. And is this just going to be you, or is this going to be like bringing other people in too?
I'll bring anybody who is available and wants to come in. Well,
okay.
Not just anybody. I'll have a few select choices, but yeah, it's going to be kind of hopefully panel and chill, answer some questions.
Gotcha. And Stephen Romney, how do people get a hold of you to check out all of the awesome content you provide?
Well, you can always find me here on YouTube at youtube.com/StudioGhostUtah. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney'sReviews, no apostrophe. And I am also on Twitter at RomneyReviews, no apostrophe S. And for this week's Romney's recommendation, I'm going to recommend a podcast that I recently discovered, and it is called LeVar Burton Reads. If you're a fan of Reading Rainbow, you probably were wondering, is he ever going to do something like that for adults? Well, he has. LeVar Burton Reads is a podcast where LeVar Burton reads various short stories and pieces of short fiction in his lovely lilting voice, complete with like sound effects and sound engineering to kind of really sell the story. I'm only one episode in, but well, it pretty much kind of pushes that same nostalgia button of this is why people liked Reading Rainbow, is because LeVar has that way of making the act of reading a story like very engaging to someone who is listening. And so that's this week's Romney's recommendation, is the LeVar Burton Reads podcast, which is available where all good podcasters are available. So iTunes, Stitcher, so on and so forth.
I didn't know this. I'll look it up too, because I wouldn't mind actually hearing some short stories read by LeVar Burton. I think that's actually a really great thing for him to do. And if people want to get a hold of my channel, you can do so. Obviously, you're on it, which is youtube.com/Drac2326. That's where all the content that I provide there is, which is mostly game content, but I do go into other stuff as well. My podcasts are there. I do vlogs where I'm talking about TV series or my thoughts on E3 or things like that. You guys can check all of that content out there. In particular, like I said earlier in the podcast, my vlog for the Netflix Castlevania just barely came up just before the podcast, so you guys can check out my opinions before we go live on, or if we go live on Sunday, and see our opinions there. But if you want to follow the podcast, and also you could follow me on Twitter at Drac2326, and I respond to your questions as quick as I am able to. If you want to follow the podcast, though, the best ways to be able to support us, first of all, are on Podomatic. Go to geekyweek.podomatic.com and follow us. Be able to, and also make sure to like the page so that you can get access to the RSS feed as well as the iTunes page, which last time I checked, I think it has been updated, so you guys can check that out. But yeah, please support the RSS feed because that's where that's where podcasts make their money, so to speak, and we would appreciate that. You can also send in stories or opinions or questions for discussion to geekyweek@gmail.com, and we do actually read them, and we do try and take them into effect unless we have a pre-prepared agenda like, say, E3 or something like that. And then also you could follow us on social media. You can look up Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions on Facebook and like it, as well as follow us on Twitter @GeekyNRO, and you'll be able to get up-to-the-minute information where we're going live, the stuff we'll be talking about, the stuff we might not be talking about, and also the stuff that you might be suggesting that we're going to talk about. All that fun stuff will be there. And that's going to go ahead and do it for us this evening. So thank you guys so much for once again joining us on this wild ride. And of course, we'll see you guys next week for even more of all of this geeky goodness that we provide weekly. And so for me, for Alex, and for Romney, we'll see you guys next week for even more geek news, reviews, and opinions.